Aloha, welcome back. Good afternoon. So today is like day 4 of having a Brewmaster. I haven't done any uploads because I really haven't been playing the Brewmaster. I've been kind of playing other classes to do armor funnels and picking up herbs and working on blacksmithing and things like that on my other characters. So I kind of really haven't been doing anything with the Brewmaster. But there have been a couple of things that I kind of have like complaints with, because I've really only got like 2 days, kind of a third day. I did stream a third day, but I do not have the VOD, so I did not get a video uploaded. Um, but I will say that there are a couple of things that I'm not too happy with when it comes to playing Brewmaster. And to be honest, I'm honestly not really having a good time playing Brewmaster. And I want to be clear that it's not because Brewmaster just sucks. It's not a terrible tank. I think that for the majority of players, the majority of the content you're going to do, you can definitely do it on a Brewmaster because I barely know what I'm doing with this thing, and it does all right. There's definitely things that I need to improve on, and we'll kind of go a little bit more into that. But if you enjoy the Brewmaster playstyle, I'll continue to play it. These are just kind of my thoughts, and it doesn't mean that you should stop playing it because of what I think or how I feel about the class and its functionality. So first off, I kind of want to start with the hero talents. Both of these are essentially 100% passive. You kind of really don't interact with them. I mean, I should be tracking like the flurry strikes, and I should be tracking my aspect of harmony and timing my celestial brew a little bit better. But I'm doing that kind of, or if I start doing that, I'm doing that at the detriment of what I would consider my survivability, because I want to spend more time or more charges of celestial brew to take less damage. Because as you can see, it's not all that great. You can see I'm actually using celestial brew. Maybe not enough, but a little bit more than maybe I should. Anyway, that would be my first gripe, is they just don't seem very impactful. I am not going to say that they're bad because I think the performance of them is okay. I just think overall that they're not very inspiring to play. They don't feel impactful like when you play Templar Paladin and you get that big ass hammer after you use Wake of Ashes on Red, right? Or after you use Eye of Tyr. I can't remember the shield that you got from Legion. When you use that shield ability, you get a big old hammer of judgment that does 600, 700k. Like, it's massive. It's got that big impact. Brewmaster doesn't have anything that feels like that. It feels like a lot of just chip damage over time, chip damage. So that kind of brings me into like the first actual complaint that I currently have with Brewmaster. Regardless of what sort of like talent you play for your hero talents, my damage is kind of terrible. And it's definitely, some of it is my fault as a player because I'm still kind of learning how to play Brewmaster, of course. But like, if you look at the actual damage numbers here, this is like overall for the entire dungeon. 245k overall for Priory. That's not very high, specifically when you start comparing it to the DPS. This guy, let's see, what was his eye level? 558. So he's doing like 60k more than me. You've got a 579, 577. We're close to the same eye level. But if you look at the damage, he is an assassination rogue doing nearly double my DPS. Actually, he's doing more than double my DPS. And that's kind of okay. But in these instances, sometimes I was having to fight for aggro as if they were fighting, like if they were hitting a different mob than I was, which made it very difficult. My single target DPS has been around 150, 160, maybe 170k. Of course, like I said before, some of this is probably a me thing. This is me just sucking, not knowing how to play Brewmaster very well, or not using my abilities great. I can tell you, looking at this, that I know that I'm not using enough Breath of Fire because I have 85 casts of Cake Smash, but only 68 casts of Breath of Fire. And I have a talent that is supposed to reset the cooldown of Breath of Fire every time I Cake Smash. So Cake Smash, Breath of Fire, Cake Smash, Breath of Fire, etc. It looks like I'm using Blackout Kick maybe a bit too much, but I tried to focus on Blackout Kick a lot more than I used to because I am taking Blackout Combo because I was having issues with keeping aggro. There was at one point I had a warrior that was doing like 800k, 800k to 850k per trash mob, like without using cooldowns. He was peaking at 1.2, 1.3 million easy, and I could not do anything. There was nothing I could do to keep him alive other than drop a ring of peace on top of him and hope that it worked, keeping those other guys away from him. And I think that's kind of a problem. So I would hope that Brewmaster gets a little bit of a buff for damage. And it doesn't have to be a whole lot, but it needs to be a little bit more to make it easier to handle some of the burst damage that some of these other classes have. Fury Warrior has been by far the biggest offender out of everybody, with Arcane Mage being a close second. But the Arcane Mages seem to have an aggro dump in that they use mirror images, so it's not as bad. But I had one Arcane Mage that was popping like 1.7, 1.8 mil pretty consistently on single target, and I was basically just taunting on cooldown because I couldn't keep the aggro off of him due to him doing basically 8 to 9 times the damage I was doing. It just mathematically it just wasn't working. So either I need to vastly improve to get more damage, or they just need buffs and damage. The Rushing Jadewind, I think I might actually end up getting rid of. I might change that talent out actually for the Bruise, the special delivery, because that would be one less button for me to track, one less button for me to press, right? Because you can see I pressed it a lot. And that's a good thing, I guess, because it's pretty consistent damage, and it kind of helps me grab aggro as people, or aggro on mobs as I run past them to grab the next group, which works out because, you know, some of these guys like to do that. Specifically, the Boomkin really loves that. And, you know, if I remove that, that means I have one less button press. So 1.5 seconds times 74. Oh, geez. So we're looking at like 105 extra global cooldowns or something to use on any other one of these. For 105 seconds, basically. This is just another 70 global cooldowns that I could use on something else to do a little bit more damage. Maybe that'll force me to do more brews, which we'll get into that a little bit later. Spinning Crank Kick is good. It does decent damage, but it uses energy, and it feels like I'm basically, if there's more than 2 mobs, it's essentially Cake Smash, Breath of Fire, Blackout Kick, or it's Cake Smash, Blackout Kick, Breath of Fire, and then Spinning Crank Kick. That is it. There's nothing else in there. Like, I should be smashing Rising Sun Kick for more single target damage because it is like the hardest hitting single target damage that I have. However, since we're doing AoE pools, I'm not pressing this as much. I might do it for some snap aggro on a guy that's like, you know, pops up, says he's a threat. I may tab over to him and grab him or hit him once with that, just to kind of make sure that I'm keeping some of these guys on me. Aspect of Harmony does a decent amount of damage. However, again, it's just passive, not very fun. Look, Touch of Death. Touch of Death just does it just does too much damage. Touch of Death is nice. I know, I get it. It's thematic to the monk. But I think that the reason that there's some damage taken away from other skills is because the existence of Touch of Death. It's a cool ability. I like it. I like being able to be like, ooh, you die now. Here's 6k or 6 mil damage. You know, that's awesome. I think it's great. But like at the same time, if you got rid of this 8 casts, that means I'm averaging like 2 mil per cast of this ability. If you got rid of that, you could split that damage up into more of these. But But, you know, like, obviously I wasn't using it enough, so I could have used it more to get, you know, more damage out of it. But you're using it on mobs that are, like, close to death anyway, so it's not really helping my aggro problems because the mob just dies. I mean, I guess it does, but you know what I mean. Charred Passions, the kick comes after Breath of Fire. Rising Sun kick, obviously I could have used it more. It's got less than a 10-second cooldown. I only used it 47 times in this entire run. I could do better than that. The Overwhelming Force is a passive that I get from using the hero talents that I'm using. Tiger Palm I didn't use very much. I tried not to, even though I probably should use it a little bit more just to get more brews. Specifically, if I'm going to swap out Rushing Jadewind and take Special Delivery, it's going to feel like I need to use my brews more. And that's kind of a good thing for me, I think, because I need to get into the habit of pressing those brews more anyway. G-Wave is just, you know, passive. I would rather use this than a Kamehameha, just because it's passive. It's less to keep track of, specifically because I'm kind of new to Brewmaster tanking. So it would just be easier. I don't have to really think about it. Even if there's, you know, one target, it's going to bounce back and forth. It's going to heal me. It's going to damage them. It's just, that's it. I think that I'm using Expel Harm way too much, though. And I think I'm, you know, kind of eating a lot of globals using this, essentially on cooldown. But I will say that I'm kind of using this more in a panic mode than I am. Well, it's kind of more like muscle memory, but also being used in panic to keep myself alive, because I am not used to watching my health bar dip like it does. And I think that's a me problem, but we'll get into the defensive side of that in a bit. You know, Chi Surge from Slaving Weapons of Order. Probably should have a few more casts of that to do a little bit more damage. And then the Sack Brood, like, okay, whatever. Passive Trinket, Cool Beans, let it do its thing. So now I want to kind of like shift over to the defensive side, because it feels really weird that I don't feel like I have any sort of actual agency in my ability to live. And I'm not sure why it feels this way so much more on Brewmaster than it does on Prop Paladin or Demon Hunter or Blood DK. You know, like, Bear Druid is even worse or even better about it. Like, I just feel invincible as a Bear Druid. I don't feel that way in a monk. I feel like I'm going into a pool, and if I don't purify correctly, or like every 5 to 10 seconds, which I fuck up more often than not, I'm just going to fall over. And it's not because my stagger is pinned at high. It's just the stagger damage is just killing me. Look, I took 70 million stagger damage, and I think it's because I'm just not purifying enough. And it feels really bad if you're not doing this enough. It's like, I guess the only comparison that I could think of is if you're walking around as a Blood Decay without Bone Shield. Right? Like, it hurts, and it's rough. As part of, like, trying to learn this, I found a guy on YouTube whose name was Shaw, and I've started reading his guide, or listening to his guides, kind of reading them because CC is on, just to figure out kind of what I'm doing wrong. How can I make this better? You know, like, what can I do to be better at this? And he's brought up some points that I didn't know were a thing. Purifying Chi was one of them, where you stack Purifying Chi to get better Celestial Brews. Better Celestial Brews means more damage absorbed, less damage taken overall. So I know for a while, I was basically using Purifying Brew when I had low stagger, but then also basically pressing Celestial Brew as often as possible. I don't think that's the right way to do it. If you can see, like, I took a lot of damage this time around, like a lot of damage, and it was almost all stagger damage, which I mean, great, but with this particular healer, I felt like I was going to die all the time. And I'm not sure if it was a healer problem or if it was a me problem. So the healer actually out-healed me by quite a bit. And when I started looking at this breakdown, do you notice something that's missing? His life bloom is all the way down here. So it was a guy that basically wasn't keeping up life bloom to keep me alive. So I was mashing Expel Harm and Instant Cast Vivify, essentially odd cooldown to try to stay alive. You can kind of see some of this. Celestial Brew, I had like 20 casts of it. The biggest shield that I had was 675,000. Not bad, I guess, but that's like nothing compared to the fact that I had like 5.3 million health. So that was kind of whack. I need to get better at that. Celestial Fortune is one of our passives, not a big deal. Chi Wave right here, you can see that definitely healed me a hell of a lot more than anybody else. Well, I think it did anyway. And then you have Vivify. So I had like 15 casts of Vivify in those areas where I started to panic. And I'm, at this point, not sure that if I was purifying more, that I would have to use it less. You see Expel Harm was used a lot. I used it too much sometimes. I know that I'm having an issue where I'm not letting the orbs stack, or my healing orbs stack, before I use Expel Harm. I'm basically using it kind of as like a, I need to heal now. And you can see that not all of it was good. You can see that the max hit that I had was like 340k, which is not bad for like a 6-second cooldown, but that was definitely one where it's eating the balls. And then normal, or the average, is about 121k. Essentially negligible. I probably should take this fucking thing off of my toolbar, or at least not leave it here. I need to move it somewhere where I have to make a concentrated effort to go find it and push the button, which would be bad, right? Because you don't want to be a clicker. Yeah, I don't know. Currently, I am not enjoying myself playing a Brewmaster Monk because there are issues with it. Some of it is definitely me just sucking at the class, and maybe I need to get somebody to come in and like take a look and tell me what I'm doing wrong. But I was definitely, I don't think I used Fortifying Brew at all this dungeon. Maybe I used it once. What do we got here? Buff up time? Let's see. Oh, it's not going to break anything out. Erosive Brawler we got there. We got a lot of Chi Wave. Yeah, see, it doesn't even look like I used Fortifying Brew at all. And I probably could have used it like twice. 3 times? Something like that. So it's a 13-minute dungeon, so I could have used it 3 times. But it doesn't look like I used it at all. Like, I don't see it in here at all. 0 anyway. Purified Chi, I only had uptime of like 4 minutes and 40 seconds out of a 13-minute dungeon. Not very good. Definitely need to do better than that. Weapons of Order. I don't know how many casts of Weapons of Order I had. Damn. Damage prevented. Me, I only prevented like 25 mil. So yeah, there were 21 mil. So there's just a lot of things that Brewmaster is not doing very well for me. I am definitely not enjoying playing it because I think I'm more stressed about staying alive playing Brewmaster than I am literally any other tank. And it doesn't seem like, let's see, how do I explain this? It's not that Stagger is a bad mechanic. It just feels bad if you're not playing it effectively. Because you're going to have high uptime on your Stagger, but if you're not purifying it enough, even if you're not doing it, or if like this is low, like my Stagger bar will be at like, 12,000, 13,000, 120,000, whatever. Right? I'm like, I don't need to purify that because that's just nothing. You still need to purify it because you need the stacks of the purified chi for your Celestial Brew. So, yeah, you never want to sit on the charges. Shaw's like, use it every 5 to 10 seconds. But then it feels bad because I don't really know the dungeons very well. And so I don't know when the big hits are really going to come. So I'm like, oh, I can't use this yet because if I get smashed by something, I'm going to need to use it, like immediately after getting hit, those kind of things. So, there's definitely improvements, but I'm still just not enjoying playing Brewmaster. And we'll see if I continue to play it. We actually ended up losing 2 players for the guild over the last week. We had 2 trials that were going to come in and play. One of them was an evoker. I believe he was playing augmentation, and he dipset, just didn't say anything. Wasn't very talkative in the guild and shit, just left anyway. Not necessarily like it sucks, but at the same time, like, okay, I guess we were not the guild for you, which is perfectly fine. I think everybody needs to find a guild that works best for them. And we also lost a healer, which I believe was also an evoker, probably a preservation evoker. I think it was a preservation. And so, we already have another guy that came in, one of our guys that is a regular that came in that's going to be able to raid this tier. He wasn't sure if he was going to be able to because he was in the military, but looks like he's going to be home in time to start doing at least some of the raids with us. And so he's picking up Monk, so we will have the Mystic Touch buff. I don't think that I'm going to pick up and play a Mistweaver for the guild. I may not even move out of a flex position. I may just stay there for now. But if not, we don't have Holy Pally, which is supposed to be good. So my Holy Pally is somewhere like 580 item level. So he's getting up there. He's about ready to go if needed. And I also have my evoker that I'm working with, getting him situated. So we'll see. The guild need will come before this challenge. It is likely that if I do raid, I will be filling a healer slot, and it will not be Monk if that's the case. So I will end up having to play Brewmaster if I continue this challenge. The Brewmaster will essentially be Mythic Plus only, which, I mean, that's kind of what it was going to be, and I was going to end up pugging raids if I was going to tank anyway. So, yeah, I mean, that's kind of where we are sitting right now with the Brewmaster Monk Challenge for Season 1 of The War Within. And hopefully, with some more practice, I get better, get more comfortable with it, and I start to enjoy it a little more. Anyway, I appreciate you guys being here. Please don't forget to like and subscribe, and I hope you have a wonderful afternoon.